Welcome back. In the last lecture, we saw introduction to the stiffness method and we solved one numerical example wherein degree of kinematic indeterminacy was 1. And we discussed certain notations like ADL, D, ADE, S, etc. Now let's see what happens when degree of kinematic indeterminacy is 2, 3. Then how are we going to handle these notations? How are we going to write these notations? So for example, observe this particular beam. This is a fixed support and then we have 1, 2 and 3 as roller supports or props. These two are interior rollers, this is an exterior roller, and then the beam is loaded with some load. First of all, stiffness method is a displacement method. My focus is unknown joint displacements. So when I look at this particular problem, I realize that there will be theta here, as well as theta here. These three are my unknown joint displacements. So corresponding to those three, first of all, I am defining three nodes. This I am calling as node 1, this I am calling as node 2, this I am calling as node 3, and henceforth my 1, 2, 3 are going to remain same, so that my notations will be consistent, corresponding. And then this unknown joint rotation I am calling as theta 1, this unknown joint rotation I am calling as theta 2, this I am calling as theta 3. Next, what is the procedure? Stiffness method is simply superposition method. That is, in first stage we restrain all joints and we try to find out the action corresponding to unknown joint displacements due to loads, actions developed due to loads. That is why I have shown fixity at the three nodes 1, 2 and 3. This is already fixed. This interior roller support I have replaced by fixed support, and then I am finding these couple movements generated due to the span loading, what we usually call as fixed end movements. These I am denoting as ADL at node 1, that is ADL 1. It is action corresponding to unknown joint displacement theta 1 due to loads on the span, and this is happening at node 1, so it is ADL 1. Similarly, theta 2 is my D2, unknown joint displacement D2. Theta 1 is D1. I will write here D1 is equal to theta 1 because now node 1, 2 and 3 are well defined. So D1 is theta 1, D2 is theta 2 and D3 is theta 3. Presumably anti-clockwise, that is, we start with an assumption of positive sign, positive sense. So corresponding to D1, these movements I am defining as ADL1. Why movements? Because when it is rotational displacement, rotation or angular displacement, corresponding action is couple movement. If it is translational displacement like sinking of support or sway, corresponding action would be force, that is end, shear, reaction, like that. So coming back to this is D2, corresponding action due to loads I am calling as ADL2, that is at node 2. Next, this is D3 equal to theta 3, corresponding action at that node 3 due to loads I am calling as ADL3. So that is about ADL 1, 2, 3. What is the next step? We are thinking of superposition. First we have restrained all the joints. Next I am going to release each joint one by one, and I am going to apply theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 one by one. But here what do we do? Since our approach is elegant approach of stiffness method, rather than applying entire theta 1, I prefer to apply unit rotation at node 1, node 2, node 3. So that is what I have shown here in my next drawing. See what have I done? This is fixed as it is. This is fixed. This is fixed. Only node 1. Its fixity is replaced by a hinge, indicating that we are providing facility of rotation. And then there I am imagining unit anti-clockwise rotation. Unit means 1 radian anti-clockwise rotation, and corresponding action is stiffness, because the very definition of stiffness is the action corresponding to unit displacement. My displacement is rotational, so my corresponding action is couple movement. So this I am calling as stiffness. And how am I defining it? I am calling it S11. Now why S11? Or why have I written here S21? Or why have I written here S31? So that explanation I am trying to give here. You have to pay very good attention, because once this is clear, stiffness method is as good as over. You will be able to solve any problem using stiffness method, because method itself is very systematic. So what have I written? S suffix IJ. This is how I am defining my stiffness coefficient Sij. What is the first suffix I indicates? It is indicating node at which the stiffness is defined. I am talking about action at which node? Which node? Location. So that is indicated by first suffix. And second suffix J indicates node at which the cause. We are thinking of action corresponding to what? Corresponding to unit rotation. We are giving unit rotation at node 1, unit rotation at node 2, unit rotation at node 3. We are giving successively unit rotations, or as the case may be, unit translations. So that is the cause. And these are all corresponding actions. So that is what I have written here. The second suffix J indicates node at which unit displacement is given, rotation or translation. So first suffix indicates the location of that action, and second suffix indicates the location where you are imposing unit displacement. Again, same thing I have explained here, but in very clear-cut writing. Sij is stiffness at node I due to unit rotation at node J in general. So coming back to when I say S11, I am observing that it is stiffness at node 1 due to unit rotation at node 1 itself. So I am calling it S1 at 1. Look at this action. We are aware that when this is 4 EI upon L stiffness, this is 2 EI upon L. The carried over moment or the reactory moment generated at the other end is half. This stiffness, because it is action corresponding to this particular unit rotation, because you have given this unit rotation, this has invariably been generated. So this stiffness I am calling as S21. It is stiffness at node 2 due to unit rotation at node 1. At this location due to rotation at that location, that is how you express your stiffness. Observe this, because of this fixity, because of this reaction, no further movement is carried to the other end. So here I am getting simply zero reactory movement. Also I am defining as S31. Means it is stiffness at node 3 due to unit rotation at node 1. Stiffness at 3 due to rotation at 1. That is S31. Observe next drawing. Here I have restrained node 1 also. I have kept node 3 restrained again, and node 2 from its restraint I have removed the restraint and I am converting it into a hinge support. Interior hinge where facility of rotation is temporarily provided. And I am giving unit rotation at node 2. Then observe my stiffnesses. Whenever I apply some movement here or whenever I develop this particular unit rotation, corresponding action at that node I am calling as S22. Why S22? It is action at 2 due to rotation at 2. This I am calling as S12 because it is action generated at 1 due to unit rotation at 2. This I am calling as S32. It is action at node 3 due to unit rotation at 2. So simple. Movement at I due to rotation at Z is my Siz, stiffness coefficient. That is as simple as that. Observe the third drawing. Here I have restrained this joint, I have restrained this joint. This is anyway fixed and it is none of our nodes because at original left end support there is complete fixity, no translation, no rotation is possible. That is not a part of our calculation of degree of kinematic indeterminacy. Our degree of kinematic indeterminacy is 3 and unknown displacements are D1, D2 and D3. So forget this joint. We are working successively on restraining node 1, node 2, node 3. 1 was released, unit rotation was given. 2 was released, unit rotation was given. Now 3 is released, unit rotation anti-clockwise positive unit rotation is given at node 3. Corresponding action I am calling as S33 because it is action at node 3 due to rotation at node 3. This action, this is going to be 4EI upon L, that is going to be 2EI upon L. This I am calling as S23 because it is action at node 2 due to unit rotation at node 3. And this is going to be again 0 because once you enter this span, because of this fixity, because of this reaction, no further reaction will be carried forward. So here I am getting simply 0. I am calling that stiffness as S13. S13, that is stiffness or action at 1 corresponding to unit rotation at node 3. And now all these stiffnesses, if you observe carefully, we have generated or we have defined 9 stiffness coefficients starting from S11 up to S33. So it is possible to express these stiffness coefficients in the form of a matrix, and that matrix I am writing for you. This is 3 by 3 square matrix in this particular example. If you have degree of kinematic indeterminacy as 2, you will get 2 by 2 matrix. If it is 3, you will get 3 by 3 matrix. If it is n, you will get n by n square matrix of stiffness coefficients. So this matrix I am expressing here as S11, S12, S13, S21, S22, S23, S31, S32, S33. Certain properties of this stiffness coefficients matrix. First of all, it's a square matrix, that is you will always get n by n order of the matrix. Secondly, the matrix is going to be symmetric matrix as we solve the numerical examples, you will come to know that S13 and S31 are identical. S12 and S21 are identical. S23 and S32 are identical. In short, you will always get Sij is equal to Sji. Symmetric matrix. And lastly, you will find that all these stiffness coefficients corresponding to unit positive displacements will obviously be positive. So that is our stiffness matrix. That is how we define stiffness coefficients. Sij means action at I corresponding to unit rotation at Z. If I and J are same, as is the case in S11, S22, S33, you will get accordingly your notations. Remember Sij, it is action at I node corresponding to unit rotation at J node. That is our stiffness coefficient. Finally, I am defining AD. What is AD? As per our last lecture notations, you must be remembering it is action corresponding to unknown joint displacement in original beam, in original given problem, original given configuration. So, when I think of theta1 as the unknown displacement, corresponding action at that joint, node 1, is going to be couple moment acting at that point, at that node. In the given problem, if there are such couple moments given as a part of loading, 10 kilonewton meter, 20 kilonewton meter, 5 kilonewton meter, whatever it is, if such a couple moment exists which corresponds to these unknown displacements, then those are our AD1, AD2, AD3. If they do not exist, we simply write that they are zeros. So, taking this one example, without using any numeric value and without any calculations, I have just tried to explain what is action corresponding to unknown joint displacements due to loads at node 1, node 2, node 3. What is stiffness at I due to unit rotation at Z. And what is action corresponding to unknown joint displacement in original given configuration, in original problem. If it is there, we write its value. If it is anti-clockwise, it is positive. It is clockwise, it is negative. If it is not there, it is zero. So, equipped with ADL, stiffnesses and ADs, now we are in a position to solve one numerical example where dki could be 2 or 3 like that. Of course, in exam we will not get dki 4 or things like that because we are not able to solve those many equations simultaneously on calculator. But otherwise, this method is, as we discussed in introduction also, most suitable for computer coding. Most systematic approach this method has, and computers can of course handle a very large order of equations, very large matrices, no issues at all. So let's see one numerical example. So this is the first problem on stiffness method, wherein we have degree of kinematic indeterminacy 2 or more. We just solved one introductory problem last lecture to understand the method, and then in today's lecture, in introduction, we saw what is the meaning of stiffness coefficients. How do we name the nodes or discuss or decide the nodes, and then how do we arrive at the notations for stiffness coefficients. So using that, now let us solve one problem. Here is a continuous beam. Support A is fixed, support B interior roller support, support C exterior roller support where bending moment is 0. On both the spans AB and BC, exactly at the mid span, we have two point loads acting, 100 kilonewtons and 60 kilonewtons. We are supposed to analyze this beam using stiffness method. So let's see how do we start. I start by first noting degree of kinematic indeterminacy, because again stiffness method is a displacement method. Our focus is unknown joint displacements. So I write degree of kinematic indeterminacy as 2. What do I observe? This is a fixed support, no displacement, no rotation possible, no translation, no rotation. This is a roller support, this is a roller support. At both these supports, rotations are possible, but vertical translations are not possible. So degree of kinematic indeterminacy is 2. Rotation at B and rotation of C are presently unknowns. So that is what we are writing. Unknown displacements, nodal displacements or joint displacements, D1 is equal to theta B, presumably anticlockwise, and D2 presumably anticlockwise, theta C. Since I am calling theta B as D1, theta C as D2, it clearly means that these two nodes, respectively B and C, we have chosen to be called as 1 and 2 as I have written. So whatever is relevant with B, it will always carry suffix 1. Whatever is relevant with support C or node C, it will always carry suffix 2. Once I have noted my D1 and D2 as theta B and theta C, next is to restrain the joints. I will remind you, stiffness method is nothing but superposition method. We restrain the joints and then we give the rotation to those joints, desired rotation or expected rotation, and while giving the desired rotation, we go through unit rotation. And when we give unit rotation, that is when the concept of stiffness, rotational stiffness comes. So, as a first step, I am restraining joint B, thereby stopping that theta B. I am restraining joint C, thereby stopping that theta C. And whatever original span loads are given, those loads I have shown here, and corresponding moments generated, we are calling as fixed end moments, MFAB, MFBC, MFCB and MFBA. So those fixed end moments I have calculated. Since we have point load acting at the mid span, we have a standard result PL upon 8. So I find MFAB as 100 kilonewton meter, which is same as negative of MFBA. MFBA is clockwise, so negative. Similarly, MFBC I am finding as 60 kilonewton meter, which is negative of MFCB. Anti-clockwise, clockwise. Do the calculations. You have to remember these standard results. Then and then only we are going to solve these problems in exam. So, after noting unknown joint displacements, nodal displacements as D1, D2, and after finding fixed end moments, now I come to the parameters like AD, ADL, S, that is stiffness, etc. So that is what I have written, restrained beam with loads. That means this is the first part of the superposition that I am looking at. Try to understand, my nodes are 1 and 2 at B and C. A is not one of my nodes because I do not have unknown joint displacements at A. At A, nodal displacements are known to me, so I am not considering A. I am not considering this particular fixed end moment as one of my ADLs. I am not considering that. Then what am I writing? I am writing ADL1. What is the meaning of ADL1? Action corresponding to unknown joint displacement theta B, because it is at 1 we are talking about. So D1, action corresponding to unknown joint displacement at 1 due to loads. When I say corresponding to, it should strike you that if I think of theta, that action has to be a couple moment. If I think of delta, translation, the action has to be force. So here our D1 is theta B. That means I am interested in couple moments corresponding to theta B generated due to loads at node 1, which are such, if you observe this diagram carefully, at B, because of loads, this couple moment is generated, as well as because of loads at B only, this couple moment also is generated. So I should understand that these two together, they are constituting my ADL1. Please observe, 1 means joint B. At joint B, there is couple moment generated due to load on span AB also and load on span BC also. That's why I have MFBA as well and MFBC as well. So these two together represent actions due to loads corresponding to node 1, corresponding to theta B. So that is why I have written ADL1 is equal to clockwise 100 plus means anti-clockwise 60. So that is giving me negative 40 kilonewton meter. Similarly, ADL2, these notations we saw last lecture, we discussed the meaning very thoroughly, but I am still discussing so that once they become a part of our routine, you will find all these very methodic, very simple routine work. Action corresponding to unknown joint displacement at node 2 due to loads. ADL2. My 2 node is at C joint. So I am talking about action corresponding to theta C, but presently it is due to loads because we have restrained that structure. So our ADL2 is nothing but this particular moment. Let me write here also ADL1. So see that you are following the meaning of ADL1, ADL2. Action corresponding to unknown joint displacement D1 due to loads, unknown joint displacement due to D2 due to loads. So that is my ADL1, this is my ADL2. Those two I have written. ADL2 is simply clockwise, that is negative 60 kilonewton meter. Now I go ahead with my next diagram, and this is all very interesting and very important. See what we are doing. We are doing superposition of this plus this into D1 plus this into D2. Why am I saying this into D1 and this into D2? Because we are not directly imposing D1 and D2, we are imposing unit rotations. And as we discussed last lecture, that if due to unit rotation, the action corresponding is so much, then due to D1, it is going to be stiffness multiplied by D1. So the same thing, same philosophy we are applying here also. So try to understand, this configuration is a split as this plus this into D1 plus this into D2, that is the idea. Those D1 and D2 are expected in original configuration. So what we are doing in this diagram, at node 1 means at joint B, I am imagining unit anti-clockwise rotation, one radial rotation anti-clockwise, because anti-clockwise is positive as per our sign convention. So that is what I have shown. This is segment AB, to which you can clearly see I have given unit anti-clockwise rotation, and this is the corresponding moment, which is nothing but stiffness. B is an intermediate joint. It has two sections, BA also and BC also. So I have shown BC separately. When I try to give unit anti-clockwise rotation to span BC, observe that drawing I have shown here. This is the unit rotation anti-clockwise 1 radian and corresponding moment is this. And then as per the stiffness coefficients that we have discussed recently at the beginning of this lecture, what is this coefficient together? So it is stiffness at 1 due to unit rotation at 1. Stiffness, these two together. Why together? Because B is an intermediate joint. When I try to rotate B, stiffness of AB will also constitute, stiffness of BC will also constitute in the resistance to that rotation. To avoid confusion, I have shown separate drawings, AB portion and BC portion. But when I try to rotate B, there is going to be rotation here, there is going to be rotation here, and that much movement, 4EI upon L1 and 4EI upon L2, I am going to require to rotate that joint by unity. So my stiffness is not going to be just that corresponding to BA or that corresponding to BC. It will be for BA as well as BC. That means these two together will constitute stiffness. But what should be the notation for this stiffness? It is stiffness at 1 due to unit rotation at 1. So it has to be S11. Please check. And that is what I have written. Restrained beam with D1 equal to 1. That means I am talking about this diagram. And later on I will talk about D2 equal to 1. So when I think of this drawing, first of all I am writing S11 by standard formula or expression. It is 4EI upon L for the two spans AB and BC. I am using L1 and L2. So we are writing 4EI upon L1 plus 4EI upon L2. If you substitute L1 and L2 both being 8 meters each, I will simply get 4 by 8 plus 4 by 8 means eventually 1 half plus 1 half. So I am getting stiffness S11 as 1 times EI. In the same drawing, observe this moment generated, which is obviously 2 EI upon L2. When there is unit rotation here, the far end moment is going to be 2EI upon L, near end moment is going to be 4EI upon L. We are aware of all this. And this moment corresponds to node 2. That is what I am trying to convey to you, that when I apply a moment here and I develop unit rotation, some moment is generated here also. Even this moment is 2EI upon L. But it is none of my stiffnesses or stiffness factors for the reason that this is no node under consideration. Our node is 1 and 2. So this stiffness is S1 due to rotation at 1. And this stiffness is a stiffness at node 2 due to rotation at node 1. Please observe, it is stiffness at node 2 due to unit rotation at node 1. So I have to write this as S2 due to unit rotation at 1. This is my S2. And that is what we are writing here. S21 is equal to 2EI upon L2. That is equal to 0.25 because it will be 2 by 8. That is 1 by 4. That is 0.25 EI. So that is unit rotation given at node 1. And now we think of restrained beam with D2 equal to 1 means unit rotation given at node 2. D2 equal to 1. So that is what I have shown in the next diagram. Please observe, remaining joints are restrained. Only that joint is released for the sake of rotation. Even same thing we had done here also. Why have I shown a hinge here or hinge here? Because I am releasing it for unit rotation, that's all. Otherwise, like this joint is fixed and this is anyway fixed. So, we are giving unit rotation, theta c equal to 1 I am applying, and corresponding moment I have shown here, and some moment generated here also I have shown. As far as notations are concerned, this is stiffness because we are talking about unit rotation. What stiffness is it? If I want to express it as Sij, what will be I, what will be J? So that is what we discussed in the introduction. If it is stiffness at node 2 because of unit rotation at node 2. It is stiffness at 2 because of unit rotation at 2. So I am going to call this as S22. Check. Similarly, this moment will be 4EI upon L very obviously, and this moment generated, which is the farthest end, will be 2EI upon L, but this is also one of our nodes, so I am calling this as a stiffness. What stiffness is it? It is going to be stiffness at 1 due to unit rotation at 2. Stiffness at node 1 due to unit rotation at node 2. So we are going to call this stiffness as S12. So as we discussed in introduction that Sij, I represents the location of that stiffness and J represents the location of the cause. Where are you giving unit rotation? This is S12. The first numeric 1 represents the stiffness at which node we are talking about. So it is node 1 at B point. And the second numeric in suffix represents where is the cause of that development of stiffness. Where are we giving unit rotation, unit translation, whatever it is. So that is why it is 2, because we have given unit rotation at node 2. So this is my S12. This is my S2. And that is what I am writing in my calculations also. S12, that is that one, will be 2EI upon L2. That is 2 by 8, so it is 0.25, and then S22 will be 4EI upon L, 4 by 8 will be 1/2, so it is 0.5 EI. So, fixed end moments calculated, ADL1 calculated, stiffness is calculated. Now I have written in the given beam, that is this particular beam, AD1 is equal to 0, AD2 is equal to 0. Who are AD1 and AD2? It is action corresponding to displacement at node 1 in original beam. Theta B is my displacement. But is there any couple moment externally acting at that joint? No, it is 0. So I may show here a couple moment curved, and I may say that it is 0. Similarly, theta C is my D2. Action corresponding to D2 in original given beam. Do I have any couple moment here? No, it is 0. See, that is what we are doing. Theta B and theta C are our displacements. Corresponding to those two rotations, everywhere we are just taking the count of couple moments, that's all. Here also, here also, here also. In the same way, in the original given beam, how much is the moment or couple moment acting at D1, acting at D2? They are 0. If they are 0, I am simply writing AD1 equal to 0 and AD2 equal to 0. And now we come to the formulation of our equations. Please observe, if I am saying that this configuration is superposition of this plus this into D1 plus this into D2. Why into D1 and why into D2? Because original rotations are D1 and D2. We are not imposing D1 and D2, we are imposing 1. So to convert it to effect of D1, I have to write this into D1 and this into D2. I am raising it to that proportion, to that level. Effect for 1, then effect for D1. Effect for 1, then effect for D2, like that. So I repeat, if this configuration is superposition of this plus this into D1 plus this into D2, I should be able to say that each agency, each physical quantity is also a superposition of same kind. For example, this particular moment which we are calling as AD1, it should be this plus this into D1 plus this into D2. And that is precisely what I am writing here. AD1 is equal to ADL1, that is this total effect, plus S11 into D1, that is this moment total into D1, plus S12 into D2, that is this moment into D2. So what we are doing is, again we are just applying superposition. No big deal at all. Similarly, this moment in original configuration should be equal to this plus this into D1 plus this into D2. You can confirm, that is what I am writing, AD2. That is original couple moment acting at C point in my original given beam, which is 0. AD2 is equal to ADL2 plus S21 into D1 plus S22 into D2. Check this. Now this I am expressing because of the particular way our notations and our terms in those two equations have appeared. I find it most comfortable to express it in a matrix form, and that is what I have written, which may be written in matrix form as, observe this matrix AD1, AD2, this matrix ADL1, ADL2, and this particular sum of products I am able to express as S11, S12, S21, S22 as my stiffness matrix into D1 and D2 as my displacement vectors. This in shorter form, in notation form, can be expressed like this: AD is equal to ADL plus S into D. This is nothing but AD vector, this is nothing but ADL vector, this is nothing but stiffness matrix, and this is our displacement vector. And now look at the terms. This is 0, this is 0, this is known to me as minus 40, this is known to me as minus 60. S11, S12, S21, S22, they are known to me, I have calculated. So these two equations contain only two unknowns, D1 and D2, which we have written separately in our last vector. So what I suggest, write this carefully. Remember this is going to be the beginning point of our problem solving henceforth once we come to this level. Right now, I have been able to explain the logic to you step by step because this is still an introductory problem. Henceforth, I may not have the leisure, I may not have the time to explain this logic. Henceforth, once the logic is understood, we will have to go methodically so that we can solve more number of problems. So henceforth, this will be our stiffness equation. Then we will express it like this, we will substitute, and we will solve on our calculators, we will directly get answers for D1 and D2. So that is what I suggest. You substitute for AD1 and AD2. You substitute for ADL1 and ADL2. You substitute for stiffnesses and solve the equations. You will get nearly these answers. Nearly means taking into consideration approximation error, rounding of error, things like that. I am getting D1 is equal to theta B is equal to 11.43 upon EI, and D2 is equal to theta C is equal to 114.29 upon EI. So this is a displacement method. We start with unknown joint displacements. We find answers to the unknown joint displacements, and then using these unknown joint displacements, it is possible to find whichever moments or shears I want. It is possible to draw SFD, BMD, elastic curve, etc. How do we do it? Simply, now that you know theta B and theta C, we just use slope deflection equations for portion AB and portion BC. I am yet to come to this drawing because it shows my final end moments. But remember, I am thinking of part AB, I am thinking of part BC. Which are my slope deflection equations? M of AB is equal to MF AB plus 4EI upon L into theta A plus 2EI upon L into theta B minus 6EI upon L square into delta B relative to A. This last term, which we usually use in translation, that is sinking of support, right now it is not happening. Secondly, theta A is also 0 because this is a fixed support. So my first equation has only these two terms. M of AB is equal to MF AB plus 2EI upon L1 into theta B. Substitute, you are getting M of AB as 102.86 kilonewton meter. This you have already calculated. MF AB 2 upon L1 you can substitute, theta B you can substitute, EI will get cancelled and you will get near about this answer. Similarly, M of BA. So I am writing MFBA plus 4 EI upon L into theta B, because for BA near end rotation theta B is taking place. So it is 4 EI upon L1 into theta B. On substitution, I get M of BA as this. MFBC. Now I have fixed end moment also, near end rotation theta B also, far end rotation theta C also, but sinking of support is not there. So there are three terms: MFBC, 4 EI upon L2 into theta B, 2 EI upon L2 into theta C. Substitute, you will get 94.29, and we are aware that these two answers should be equal and opposite, which they nearly are so. There is hardly an error of 0.01, which is okay. And finally, MFCB. So when I think of MFCB, there is fixed end moment, there is near end rotation theta C, and there is far end rotation theta B. So all these three factors will contribute, but there is no sinking of support. So I am saying MCB is equal to MFCB plus 4 EI upon L2 into theta C near end plus 2 EI upon L2 into theta B far end, and on substitution I am getting 0, which is what we are expecting, because this is an exterior roller where bending moment has to be 0. Once you have M of AB, M of BA, M of BC, M of CB, draw the FBDs. These are partially complete FBDs because I have not shown end shears, because to draw BMD by superposition I don't really require end shear. But if I want to draw SFD, then of course sigma m about A and sigma Fy equal to 0 will give me VA as well as VB. Here also VB as well as BC, and then I will be able to draw assembly. As such, I have not shown end shears, just these movements, end movements. This is positive, so anti-clockwise, negative, so clockwise, positive, so anti-clockwise, and this is 0. And then I can simply go for superposition, draw end movements first, superpose span movements, you will get your final BMD. We have done this in SD method as well as in MD method, so I am sure you will be able to finish this problem with bending moment diagram. So great, this is our stiffness method, and then for the first time today we are seeing the use of stiffness coefficients Sij. Stiffness at a node due to unit rotation at some other node or at same node. So that's why it is S11, S22, S21, S12, things like that. And at the back of your mind, keep this very clear that this is nothing but superposition. This plus this into D1 plus this into D2 should give me my original configuration. That's all. So, in the next lecture, again we will see more number of problems on continuous beams with sinking of support, with degree of kinematic indeterminacy 3, things like that. Thank you.